Hey everybody, this is Ian Lowe of Lform Design, your B2B web design source and solution. And I am the owner, Ian Lowe. Had the company now for 16 years. And with me today, we have our famous art director, Jeff Karomi. How you doing today, Jeff?
Yeah, doing pretty good. It's been a pretty good week so far. So yeah,
Awesome.
everybody, my name's Jeff Karomi. I'm the art director here at Lform Design. For the past 15 years, I've been specializing in SEO, user experience, and interface design for B2B clients.
All right, so let's jump right in. We're going to be looking at AIT or AI technologies. Full disclaimer, they are not a client of Lform. And we thought they do have a location here in the great state of New Jersey, so we thought it'd be a good opportunity to review their site. And let's just jump right into the homepage. Some of the items that we notice right off the bat is that you're greeted with this massive hero area, this massive carousel, or better known as a slideshow. You might not even notice that you have to scroll down this page. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, if you can see here, if I bring up my little red tool, all of this red area I'm indicating, this is all hero area. The problem with having your hero area go right down to the page, at least all the way at the bottom, is that it doesn't, now you do have this little tiny bouncing arrow here, but no one really notices that kind of stuff. It's not really evident that there is more to the page. Generally, you want your hero kind of constrained a little bit, possibly, maybe around, I would say maybe around like that kind of size. And then you want other information kind of down here. This is kind of like a quick little wireframe there. But you want to tell people, hey, there's more on the homepage. So if you're not finding what you want here, there's more to go down so people can scroll through the homepage and find what they want.
Yeah, I mean, you are greeted with these beautiful visuals, beautiful photography, but ultimately, people want to get to the meat and potatoes, right? They really want to learn more about your company. People are used to scrolling, having these images that are taking up the entire screen. They're obviously using some type of JavaScript to measure your browser size, and then serving up these images so it fills the screen. Again, it has that kind of cool factor, but we find in the B2B world, engineers who are the majority of the people that we deal with, those are the audience members, those are the potential clients that they're trying to sell to. Engineers are they don't really care about the wow factor. They care about getting the information quickly, effectively, and then moving on with their day. So the other thing that I noticed right off the bat is that they have their translator, so you can obviously switch between Chinese and English here, but they threw it as a sticky button down here, and that's just a hard place to find it. The norm is to put it up in your header, the top of your website. So yeah, thanks for drawing, Jeff. So so they also have a lot of slides here. Ultimately, they're highlighting the services or products that they're offering. Put that further down on the homepage, or have featured products, featured services that you want to highlight in a more of a directional type of manner. So let's go further down this page. And Jeff, why don't you just talk about some of the things you noticed that are just wrong almost?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, so, chat boxes can be very useful. And you, Ian, are on a pretty wide screen. However, my screen's a little smaller, and I usually keep it a little smaller. That's how people normally see it. This chat box is actually getting in the way of some of the content on the page as you're scrolling. You can see how it's automatically, uncollapsed immediately. It's also in a kind of a strange position. Generally, you would want any kind of chat box to be located down here. Now, obviously, I guess they didn't want to do that because they have that language swapper over there.
Yeah.
However, it's kind of one of those things that people just expect, right? They expect a logo to be up here. They expect chat boxes to be up here, maybe over to the side. They expect, search to be up in a corner, and they expect a contact link in the header, which they don't have. So it's just one of those things that when you divert or do something differently than a commonly accepted design pattern across the internet, you're automatically going to lose some people. I mean, I'm sure some people who are reviewing didn't really even notice this chat box right off the bat. So that's number one. The other thing I'm seeing is there's not really good text hierarchy here. Like, let's look at a few elements. So they got a big old button. Okay, I do like how that's at least visible, but kind of smaller headlines, all caps text. This headline isn't that big. It's kind of almost similar size to these really tiny links. And this kind of is all over the place, right? You can see here, the name. The actual quote that they're using in here is smaller than the name. And that it's important to really match that kind of hierarchy, right? Humans in general, they're going to look at something and go, the bigger something is, the more it's important. That's why when you title a Word doc, you start with a large title and then you have smaller body copy. That's just kind of how we've trained ourselves to work. And your website works the exact same way. So what you're telling me, just going down here, what you're telling me is the most important thing on your website is a COVID statement, some testimonial names, and a video. And I'm not going to look at anything else, even though, let's say here, these are your products. This is where people want to go. This is where people are looking to find information on your website. And a lot of that, that's the kind of stuff we handle during a wireframing phase of a website redesign or website work. But this has to be changed. These should be some of the most important elements on your website. It's below a lot of areas.
Absolutely, right. And then is there a rhyme and reason to how they're listing all these items? Right? Should it be in alphabetical order, or sometimes the choice, there's too many choices here. So that's another problem I'm seeing. I don't know where to start my journey. As we get further down this page, then I'm seeing our history and about us section is just kind of shoved into the homepage, where they really should create a separate page to talk about their history and the about us. Maybe if they want to have a brief blurb talking about the company on the page, AI Technology has more than 29 years of experience in designing manufacturing. You could, maybe keep that first sentence somewhere on the home page, but the rest of it, I put on a separate page. And then I'm not quite sure. It looks like they are the ISO certification here. It looks like they also have OSHA, some type of OSHA requirement. And it's just kind of bizarre that they just shoved it here on the homepage below everything. I would imagine you'd create separate pages for these. And then it looks like they put an ad here. Like literally, it's an ad that might have appeared on another website. They just kind of liked it maybe and just decided to put it on their homepage. And then they have obviously looks like sell sheets or some type of brochures that they also put down here. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, this definitely seems like one of those areas where they had to say, well, we need this OSHA certificate, put it on the homepage. And this is the only clickable one out of the bunch. Yeah, I mean, I could see it on my screen, but you can barely tell that this is an ISO 9001 rating. You're going to want to use the logo for that. No one needs to see your certificate. And if they do want to, then you want to provide that as a download. But really, if this is important information, this all should be put into its proper section and be on page. One of the problems here is that, especially for, this ISO, there's a little bit of information on here. None of this is readable in Google. Google's just going to see that as an image. Possibly you could put all that text in there as alt text, but that would be an issue for screen readers, having to read through all that for people who have, who need those to navigate through your website. So yeah, it definitely feels like everything past about the those product listings. So like about us, this all seems like just an afterthought, right? It has to be on the website. Put it on the website. I don't really I don't really care how it looks.
Great.
I mean, it's good that there's some content here because there's not a lot of content on the homepage. So from an SEO perspective, that's nice, but you're right. This could be trimmed down and pointed over to the about page instead.
So let's go into the products area. So if I were to just click on products and services up here, we're taken to this page that isn't a product listings page. It looks like a list of different cell sheets, literally PDF files. And I can't even click on them to make them larger. So let's just, click on one at random. Let's do lid sealing materials and solutions. Now, maybe I would be taken to a product page talking about lid sealing materials. But when I click on it, I guess it's more of a, it's not, well, it is talking about the MC 8880 paste adhesive, right? So I guess it is taking me to this specific product, but I guess I'm just very confused by the visuals, and that's what is concerning to me about this. Now let's just see if there's a one-to-one correlation between the drop-down menu, right? So you got lid sealing materials is the last item listed here. And then I would expect it to be towards the bottom of this laundry list, and I'm not seeing it. There's not a correlation between what I'm seeing in my drop-down menu and my product listings page. And that is a cause of concern. Let's look for, again, substrate and component attached film. Substrate, and I'm not, up there it is, it's up there. So I am seeing, but again, because you're not seeing the same items on a master product page and then the drop-down menu, it's confusing to me, and it's going to be confusing to a new user to the website. So this is a simple task that can be achieved that they should immediately do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while you've been kind of going over that, I've just been clicking around different product pages, and it is kind of highly confusing. Every page seems to have different types of content. It does, when you say the word products, you're thinking, everyone's kind of trained to think e-commerce, right? You see a bunch of products, maybe an image, maybe a title, you click into it, you get a bunch of details. Every one of these pages seems to have an entirely different structure. And this is just really confusing. On top of that, some of these product names, one of the offender, if you roll over into wafer processing, adhesive, and solutions, some of these product names are 3 lines long. This is just making it really difficult for your customers to kind of find what they're looking for. You need to be a little more succinct and really cut down, because these menus, and you can see these menus are huge. Now, on your screen, Ian, it doesn't reach the bottom. On my screen, I actually have to scroll within the menu. It cuts about that much of the menu off. So, there would be a much better way of handling these, but one of the things you would need to do is really cut down on how much you're saying in these product titles. Yeah, and honestly, it's just a really chaotic. I'm really not sure if I wanted to find something very specific where I would even, where I could even find it. Maybe I would actually have to default to searching on the website for something specific. Because especially, and even once you get onto these pages, there's so much content. It's kind of intimidating to have to go through. So yeah, there's a lot of product structure and information hierarchy that really, really, really needs some work here. Your users are going to have to do a lot of work just to find what they're looking for on this website.
Yeah, this is So ultimately, what they would benefit from, oh, I froze for a brief second. What they would benefit greatly from would be having uh, essentially compartmentalizing these pages. So you have, so to speak, your master categories for your products, and then your subcategories, and maybe even your subcategories. But do this not through navigation, do it through browsing, right? So ultimately, I could start my journey with diet attach adhesive, or let's say wafer processing adhesives and solutions, or just actually truncate the whole thing in your drop-down menu. Just call it wafer processing adhesives. You go into that specific page, and then you could see a smattering of the subcategories, and then you click further to get even more detail on those individual products. They would just, then people, I think, would have an easier time. The other component of this is the hierarchy. What items, how are they listing these items? Do they sell dye attach adhesives? Is that their main product? Is that what they sell the most of? Or the next thing that they sell the most of are wafer processing adhesive, right? Like, what is the rhyme and reason to this, the way that they're showcasing these items? I'd like to get behind that and understand why, and then we could go ahead and reorganize this based on hierarchy of sales or higher or chronological order. Would just make a little bit more sense. Again, I think I would really like to talk to their sales engineers to understand how they go about selling to a new user or someone who's interested in utilizing their services. So let's talk about the application analysis page, which I am very confused by that vernacular, application analysis, because ultimately what it is it's an estimate form. So they have this, contact form. It's labeled a contact form. It's called application analysis up here. And then this thing is gigantic. I'm sure they could keep this, but for an initial conversation to begin, I would be overwhelmed. I think they should truncate this and then maybe, or keep this and then have kind of like step one. Are you a new client? Click here, fill out a short form. Are you an existing client, but we need more detailed information? Click here, right? How do I start my journey? And ultimately, I think it would lead to more sales, because people don't like filling out huge forms, especially what has happened on past websites that we reviewed. The forms, you fill them all out, you hit submit, and it doesn't even send any of the information to the person, meaning the client. So could you imagine filling out all this information and then you hit submit, it doesn't even work? So that, it happens on even some of our websites. It does happen from time to time. Maybe the server, we don't like it, rarely happens, but it does happen. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely agree with you that application analysis, there has to be some way of better introducing this form, right? Maybe there are people that really do like, okay, I have some very specific dimensions, you put it in there, but let's say I just have a problem, or I have a question that I just need a little answer for. I don't know on this website where I would do that, where I would send that. They do have a little tiny email with an icon here, and they have a phone number. But one of the most important pages, I can't even there. Does it go to the same page?
It does. Yeah, it does.
So there's no way to just fill out, ask a question, maybe put in like I have some information, but maybe I don't. Because remember, some people that are contacting you are not going to be the engineers at the company. They are going to be the person they've tasked with. Now, if you have you have an admin assistant or an intern who's working for you, and like, hey, we need to source this. Can you do some research? Well, they can only really just copy your link and add it to it because they may not know how to fill out a lot of this really highly complicated information. So in that case, you
Absolutely.
do need kind of a contact form. On top of that, it's just a real big SEO miss. Google looks for contact pages and crawls your information so that it can scrape it and put it and display it on Google. That way, if someone's looking for your phone number, they could go to, Google will have that information readily available to you. It's really important to have that /contact page. And this is honestly probably the first website I've seen in quite a long time that does not have a contact page.
Well, this is their contact page. Again, it's mislabeled up in the navigation, but it is a
Well,
contact page.
so I'm going to argue with you. It says
Okay.
application analysis and it's /analysis. They don't have a contact page. They have a /analysis page. So
That is
this
true.
is not,
Yeah,
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 this is
it's true.
not a contact page.
Okay. Um, so let's talk about one last item that you and I had briefed. So if you go to like the press releases, they have two press releases here. If I go to this, I'm not quite sure why they have AIT wafer processing adhesive webinar just kind of thrown here, but they do. And then they have the AIT conformal coatings webinar here. And then they have the blog. And then the blog is by admin. So it's not even being attributed to a staff member. And you can see it's quite old. This was done a little less than 2 years ago. So ultimately, what I would suggest is they consolidate this all into one section that can be categorized. If you want to click webinars, it sorts everything by webinars. If it's able, if you have a blog post and you want to sort it by editorial in nature, you can sort it by editorial. If you want to, just create an overall arching blog category, you can. But essentially, this could all be put into a blog format with tagging, with categorization. I think it would just lend itself to not being so thin in some of the sections. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, clicking around the resources, there's, a few things here and there. Some of them are, some of them are single pages. The blog just has two kind of little posts. Bringing that all in together, if you have a lot of really disparate types of resources, like that one page we just saw had one item, this has two, bringing it all into one area that someone can just click on and filter, it won't look as empty, right? And again, the good thing about combining all resources onto one page is I don't know whether these links are, any given link is a PDF download, is a page, is an external link. You can display to your users exactly what it is, so that way they're not surprised. I mean, there's plenty of times on these website reviews that link doesn't even doesn't look like it was happening there.
These are
But
these are patents that are going to, I'm assuming, the U.S. government's patent page, but
yeah, and then yeah, so looks like something's
yeah,
going on
yeah,
there. But you're thinking, oh, it might be a page. You don't want to surprise your users. You want to tell them exactly what they're clicking on and what they're getting. I mean, how many of these website reviews have we accidentally opened PDFs or downloaded them, or it kind of happens all the time. So you want to just make it as easy for your user to fill the information as possible. You want to take away that friction so they can find that information. And on top of that, you want to make sure all this stuff is accessible by Google, because people are not going to come to your website and ask a question. They're going to ask Google the question. And that's just kind of how it is these days.
Absolutely. And then last but not least is the shop. It looks very amateurish. I would not feel secure purchasing, or at least sharing credit card information via the shop. I would honestly probably just call them up and say, can I just give you my credit card information over the phone? If that feels more secure to me. Why? Because user expectations when it comes to e-commerce is things need to look organized, and overall functionality, these items are different sizes. It looks like almost like a fake image. This is just a bad sketch. I think done in Illustrator, it looks like. It's just too, yeah, it's too, I hate to say, lack of a better term, juvenile almost in nature. So I think they're doing themselves actually a disservice by having the online store. But maybe their existing clients are using the online store. They've done it a couple times. They know it doesn't look good, but it gets the job done. So I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I always like using analogies when explaining this kind of stuff. Let's say if you were trying to solicit a client's business, would you show up in a t-shirt that had a ketchup stain on it? And that's kind of what your website is doing, right? You're saying, come to this website, trust us, we're the experts. And when your layout is all over the place, especially with the prevalence of scams these days, you're right. I would not let my credit card, I wouldn't even take it out of my wallet while I was browsing this website, Ian. I wouldn't even want to I wouldn't want to have it within 10 feet of the store.
Right.
So just doing that, and once you drill down to the product page, this is most likely it's just the images. If you kept the images a consistent size, honestly, all of this stuff would probably line up pretty well. But they're all just different sizes, which again, it's telling the user, well, we don't really care enough about our products to display them properly. So why would you care? That's kind of what you're really telling a potential customer.
Yeah. So let's just jump into our overall website rating for this site. I'll start. I think it looks to me, now this is a cursory glance, it looks to me as if they have all the information there. It just needs to be thoroughly organized and thoughtfully placed. So I'm going to give this a D, maybe a C minus. It's just very confusing. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards the D here. Jeff, what are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you and say a C minus here. One of the hardest things we find for any kind of website project is generating content, and they already have a lot of content. Even just clicking around on my monitor over here, there's a lot of product content, and that's excellent. That means you have a lot to work with and you have a lot to design around. But the thing is, the problem really comes down to it's difficult to understand that information. It doesn't have the proper hierarchy. It's difficult to navigate around this website. And having to find something, I was honestly getting lost trying to go back and forth between products. So I'm getting lost, and you like to use the term, super users. We use the internet and we look at websites constantly, and we have to use them constantly. If I'm getting lost on the website, that does not bode well to someone who may be less technically savvy than an art director and a owner of a web design company.
That's right. All right. So Jeff, why don't you take us out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again, everyone, for watching. We love doing these, and we're trying to keep them on track as best we can. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want more B2B website reviews. I know we've been talking about doing some other content, so maybe that'll be coming down the pipe as well. If you have any good information, or if you want to you disagree with us, agree with us, point out something maybe we should have gone over but didn't, please leave a comment. It helps us get out to more people, and we like hearing your opinions. So thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everybody. See you next time. Bye.